Hey guys, Ronray here, and today I'm going to showcase my variation of Blood Mist or Infinimist build. Let's look into it. So, let's look at our skills. As a basic attack we are using Rip, since it's a really good way to generate corpses. We need to hit with Rip from time to time, so we always will have corpses around. And the bonus here is Acolyte's Rip, so that way we can generate corpses. And this is the main reason behind it. Moving forward, you should take Hewitt Flash for lucky hit bonus chance to generate corpses as well. We are taking 5 ranks of Blood Mist, since it's kind of our main spell, together with Ghastly Blood Mist, so Blood Mist can generate corpses as well. It's pretty important for build to work. Corpse Explosion should be maxed out, since it's probably the main source of damage for that build. And the main passive here is Blighted Corpse Explosion, since that way we will be able to stack Corpse Explosion damage with Shadow damage over time. I'm also taking Grim Harvest, 1 point into it, and the Fueled by Death, which is pretty good. Here I'm taking Decreepify, which is a really good curse. That way we can slow down enemies and apply crowd control to them. So different bonuses will work better for it. And the passive here is Abhorrent Decreepify to reduce our cooldowns. That's pretty important, since together with low cooldowns for Blood Mist we could have Blood Mist almost all the time. The passives here are Amplified Damage, which is a really nice damage source, together with Death Embrace, which is good for both defense and offense. Moving here we have a lot of item contribution bonuses for Corpse Tendrils, and the cooldown is pretty low. The passives here is like Enhanced Corpse Tendrils and Plagued Corpse Tendrils, so that way we will be able to apply Vulnerable all the time. The Necrotic Carapace here is a really good source of Fortify and could help us with damage as well. And to the left we are taking 2 of Reaper's Pursuit for movement speed bonus, we are taking 3 into Gloom for more damage, and Terror here is a really good source of damage as well. Only 1 point for Crippling Darkness is required for additional crowd control here and there. Moving forward, our ultimate skill is Bone Storm. We mostly needed to lower the damage and get some damage reduction here and there, so we can survive better when we out of Blood Mist. The passives stand alone for damage reduction, together with Memento Mori, so we'll have more sacrifice bonuses. And the key passive here is Shadow Blight, which is really important and will help us with the damage a lot. Let's look at our Paragons. So in the Paragon board we are moving through the right, taking Prime, and both Preservation and Knowledge. The Glyph here is Exploit, since we really need both vulnerable damage and additional bonus from Exploit as well. After taking it, I'm exiting through the top and moving there. The next board is Flesh Eater, which is a really good board for Infinimist Necromancer. The Glyph here is Control, which we need to stack to the maximum. Enemies around us should be almost all the time crowd controlled, so the damage increase should be insane. We are taking all the intelligence around, it, and both Stifle, Target and Erudite. Moving to the left, the board is Blood Begets Blood. We're also getting the Essence Glyph here for the critical strike damage, and especially for the additional critical strike damage bonus to the enemies that are not healthy. I'm not taking a lot here, so I just need the Dexterity, and that's pretty much it. Exiting through the top, the next board is Wither. The Glyph here is Darkness, which is pretty important to stack as well. I'm taking Malediction, Nevin Darkness, Lingering Shadows, and Dragging Shadows to the left. I'm also moving here to get the Legendary Node, which is pretty good for the build. Moving to the left, the next board is Bloodbath, and the Glyph inside is Territorial, which is pretty good, since we should be always close to the enemies that we are trying to attack. I'm mostly taking only the Dexterity here, so that should be pretty simple. Moving to the right, the last board is Scent of Death, and the glyph here is Scourge. which we should stack a lot as well. I'm taking both Preservation for armor and Death Marked for damage. I'm also moving here to take the legendary node Scent of Death, since it's a really good one that can give us both damage reduction and increased damage. Moving down there, I'm also taking Ruin, since the damage bonus from it pretty huge, especially since it have critical strike damage as well. So let's move forward to our aspects. At the helmet, I'm using the aspect of Disobedience for more armor, and this is pretty important since that way we'll be able to survive better when we are going outside of the mist. We should also roll like Rends to Decreepify and cooldown reduction on helmet, which should be pretty important. At the chest armor, I'm using the aspect of Explosive Mist, which is really good. Try to always max out this aspect, since that way you will have much less cooldown. On the body armor itself you can roll like total armor, like shadow damage or pure damage. Everything should work, since it's pretty much not that important. Moving to the gloves, I'm using Howl from Below, and we really need these unique gloves, so the build will work much better. That way we will be able to hit more enemies with Corpse Explosion, and the Corpse Explosion will deal more damage. At the pants, I'm using the aspect of the Shielding Storm to get more barrier when our Bone Storm is active. That could be really nice. You should also always roll ranks of Corpse Explosion on pants together with armor and damage reduction. At the boots, I'm using the Ghost Walker aspect, so that way we'll be able to move faster when we are in our Blood Mist form. You should also roll movement speed and ranks of Corpse Tendrils here. This should be pretty good options. At the wand, I'm using the aspect of Grasping Veins, which is a really good option since it gives a lot of critical strike damage bonus against all the enemies who hit by Corpse Tendrils. Stats itself, you should aim for vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and damage over time. In the offhand weapon, I'm using the aspect of Bloodsock. That way Blood Mist can leave a trail and deals shadow damage as well. But the most important part of this aspect is that Blood Mist will not lower our movement speed when we are in the Blood Mist form. This is pretty important so we can move around faster and hit enemies faster. The stats itself, that's good to have a lucky chance, cooldown reduction and stuff like that. Moving to our amulet, we have an aspect of Blight. This is pretty important one, try to get as many damage numbers as possible here. It always should be close to like 180. And the stats itself, you can roll ranks of terror passives, ranks of corpse skills, ranks of gloom passive and cooldown reduction. That should be pretty much enough. Moving forward, the first ring is aspect of decay. This one is pretty alright, so it could help us stack the Shadow Blight passive and deal more damage with it. The set itself tried to roll maximum life, critical strike damage, critical strike chance and vulnerable damage. The second ring is the aspect of Ultimate Shadow. So that way Bone Storm together with the Blood Wave can become a darkness skill and deal the shadow damage. We are stacking as many shadow skills as possible, which is pretty alright, so we'll do more damage overall. The stats stay the same. So let's look at the Book of the Dead. The first bonus that we are taking is Sacrifice of the Reapers. That way we can do more shadow damage, but we can't have Skeletal Warriors. The second bonus is Sacrifice of Skeletal Mages Cold. You deal more increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and you can summon Skeletal Mages. And the last one is Iron. That way we can deal 30% increased critical strike damage, but we'll lose the ability to summon Golem. I think this is the best setup currently, so that should be pretty much it. So let's look at our Malignant Heart options. I'm currently using the set with Cage Heart of the Barber, since it's a really good source of damage, especially for builds who can do a lot of damage over time. My second heart is Cage Heart of Sacrilegious, which is pretty important for the Blood Mist build, and the last one is Cage Heart of Revenge, which is really amazing and probably like best in slot heart for almost any build right now. But there's like a few more options you can consider. If you don't have the Barber, you could try to use Varshan's Heart. The damage will be lower, but it's still a viable option. The second option should be Cage Heart, the Decrypt Aura. It could be really good since if you are lazy to cast Decrypify all the time, that could do it for you. The Cage Heart of the Dark Dance could be an option as well, so that way your skills will do a little more damage and you will lose health here and there. And the last option is Cage Heart of the Calculated, if you need to crowd control and stun enemies more often. So that pretty much was it. So that's pretty much everything. Thank you for watching and like and subscribe for more Diablo 4 content. See you next time!